All right. Welcome to episode 9 of the Inside Real Estate Podcast. And today we have Laura Sides with Sides Investing. She's kind of kicking some butt right now. We thought she'd be a great guest to have on. So thank you, Laura, for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. So let's start and give everybody a little bit of background on yourself.
Yeah. So 2.5 years ago, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I got to chapter 5 and I was like, oh my God, there's a whole nother world out here. Because before that, I was a middle school biology teacher and then I stayed home with our kids. And I said to my husband, I'm like, we have to take a HELOC out on our house because we had lived in our house for 10 years. So we had plenty of equity. And we just thought we were going to start investing in Florida. And what ended up with the HELOC, we bought a flip in Westchester instead of the condo in Florida. And in 6 weeks, we made $100,000. And my husband was like, all right, babe, go ahead. So then it was like this profit, what do you do with it? And we knew that we didn't want to use that money. It felt like it wasn't ours. It was after all the debt was paid back, we had this money and we're like, now what do we do? Yeah. And we invested that into short-term rentals. So it's just kind of been rinse and repeat since then.
Yeah. That's crazy that you just you were reading a book and you said you didn't even get to the end of it. Did you end up reading the rest of it?
Still haven't. I probably should. It's just been like hit the ground running one foot after the other since then.
Yeah, for sure. So what in chapter 5 or leading up to chapter 5 just, flip that switch for you?
I truly never had any concept other than you go to work, this is your paycheck, and then you use that paycheck, and once it's gone, and then you do it again, right? You keep showing up at work, like trading time for money.
Yeah.
And then when I realized that you could use your money to make money and the difference, like Robert Kiyosaki talked about the difference between assets and liabilities. And I truly had no concept of that, which sounds weird now, but I had no idea that you could sink money into something that would make money. So when he clearly told about what an asset and what a liability was, I'm like, I'm going to buy more assets and I'm going to use the assets to pay for my liabilities.
Yeah. I read the book as well. But I actually got introduced to Kiyosaki I saw one of his YouTube videos, and you know the quadrant thing that he talks about, and he just kind of put it in perspective. I'm like, okay, you got small businesses, employees, big businesses, and investors, and the one thing that they were talking about was that the government is not your enemy; they're more like a partner. And the tax structure is set to incentivize people to do things the government doesn't want to do or isn't good at, like agriculture, energy, housing, those type of things. So, and then I was like, it really does switch your mindset when you think about it that way. There's a lot of people out there that want to say, oh, rich, bad, but I mean, they're not doing anything wrong. And I mean, I'm sure there's bad people out there, but they're really just kind of looking at things through a different lens.
That's so wildly true. And it's such a good takeaway from that book. I feel like each time you read it, and if I read it again, you get different takeaways. Because when I was reading it, I had such a baseline. But I remember used to be like afraid of talking about taxes or not wanting to deal with it or just like, oh, tax season. And now I'm like, the more you learn, the more you can work it to your benefit. And that's been a really cool part of real estate.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you're investing now. What was your real estate experience leading up to that?
Absolutely nothing. So
you had bought a house, correct?
Right. That was it. That was it. We bought our house in Westchester as a foreclosure, actually.
Okay.
And we just got lucky. Somehow we got lucky getting that house because we were at the time an FHA loan, but we were babies. It was before we were even married. I think I was probably 22.
Oh, so you had it for a while.
Yeah, we had it for a while and it was just a great investment. So then I learned about all this equity that was kind of like untapped money. But other than that, no real estate interest whatsoever, which is crazy because now I'm completely obsessed.
Yeah. Now you just pulled the trigger and went after it. Like, was there any reservations, or were you kind of just like, screw it, we're going to just give it a shot?
A healthy mix of both, I think, because we went into that house knowing we couldn't lose. And then every step that we've made after that with investing, we've been relatively, I want to say, conservative, and hopefully not to a fault yet because they've all been crazy home runs. But it's going into a house knowing like, I can't lose on this. Mm-hmm. It has to be a win, and just figuring it out as we go.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on people changing their mindset towards wealth creation? Now, let me give you a little where my head's at with that. So I've had my real estate license in the past. I got that simultaneously while starting this business. So I've been exposed to the industry for a while, and common philosophy is like, you buy, you sell, like you buy your dream home, yada, 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 the normal rat race, right? But what I've seen in talking with people, there's been a lot of creative solutions to what people are dealing with, especially, first-time home buyers, for example. One of the things that some mortgage people are talking about is instead of, finding a house you hate, getting into a house you hate, or a dump, or, just like, hey, I'm never going to buy a house. One of the solutions is like now FHA will allow you to get up to 4 units where you can live in one and have it pay for it. And I think while it's, back, in my parents' and I'm sure your parents' day, like it was like you could probably buy one and be done and live and die in it. But now, while it's maybe not what people originally thought, it might actually be better for them in the long term because it gets them into, gets their feet wet in doing what you're doing to an extent.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that you can't change your mindset or open it fast enough, right? Like,
I love it.
It's wild how much potential there is out there from starting from no experience whatsoever. You don't need, there's not this big threshold of knowledge that you need to cover, right? There's all kinds of people around at meetups, real estate agents, investor-minded people that want to help you succeed once you have the drive. And then you can kind of just figure it out as you go and take that leap and go for it, because there is a whole nother world out there that people can have access to if they choose to.
I like that a lot because I think, one thing that I'm seeing, it's funny because most of the guests that we've had on so far, a lot of them are in the investing, in some aspect. They're working towards that. And I think it's becoming a lot more prevalent. And I think even, one of the agencies we work with, VRA, they're big on getting their people into that, as opposed to like, hey, let's start buying some, houses, like use selling real estate as your vehicle to kind of help you facilitate that. If you knew what you know now, would you have purchased your first home, or would you have rented and your personal residence and invested your money into assets right away?
I know, that's such a good question. I think I'm more interested in like, would I have gone to college?
It's fair.
But would I have done it? I am so happy with where I'm at right now and the whole road that's led here. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I would change anything, but I think you're right in that there is more of a knowledge of investing now for the generation that's coming up and getting ready to buy their first house, and knowing that you don't have to work for every dollar and that you can put the money to work for you. Mm-hmm. So, and I think social media has been a really cool way to have people have access to that information, that it doesn't have to be what it's always been, right? Like what my parents or what even our school taught us. You can go out there and create a life that looks radically different than what you were taught. Mm-hmm. And it's accessible. And thanks to social media, right? That's why I started my page, because I was so inspired by what other people were doing, and just like, hey, you're a regular person. You put a little effort in, you learn things, and you can really accomplish big things.
Absolutely. Now, you had talked to me yesterday a little bit about one of the things that you're doing is really, I guess, working on efficiency, like creating your systems, infrastructures, and your network around the investing end of things. Talk a little bit about that, and maybe how social media has maybe helped, or if it was a non-factor in that.
So the logic, we talked yesterday, right, about, you asked me if I was a real estate agent. Mm-hmm. And I said, I have started the courses probably 4 different times and kind of set it down, because it's an app now, right? Yeah. And because I've started flipping another house. And I think my mindset is growing in that I don't need to be in control of every part of real estate. And while maybe the smaller part of me thinks like, I love real estate so much, I should get my license. Mm-hmm. I'm learning that outsourcing is even more critical to my success than taking it all in-house. So outsourcing, agents and working with agents, basically, I'm happy to pay them for their service. Yeah. Bookkeepers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, that kind of reminds me of the whole FSBO thing. They think they're getting one over, but they're like, are you though?
Right, absolutely.
There's just, these people, it's like when I went to mulch my house one time. I was like, you'll save some money. but the amount of time that I spent on that is just not worth it.
And then I always realize the quality of the person that is the professional far exceeds my abilities anyway. Like I could have for sale by owner our latest flip, and I could have taken the pictures on my cell phone, but you guys came in and you made it look like a movie, and you made every picture so crisp, and you knew what angles to get them from. And you showcased that house so beautifully that we got 2 offers sight unseen. Because of the work that you did. Had I taken cell phone pictures, I mean, what would even compare, right?
Right.
How would we even know what we would have lost had I done it myself?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even real estate agents, it's like, yeah, they could take their pictures themselves. We know how that turns out, but it's kind of just it's kind of like you're building a machine, right? Like we're a piece to, like when we work with realtors, we're a piece of the machine that they're running, that's their business. And you're kind of doing the same thing through, all the different pieces to doing what you're doing.
100% efficiency, right? And that's totally the goal, is to build the machine. And that takes a different mindset though too. Like I don't need to be involved in every piece of this puzzle. Let the people do their job.
So let's unpack that a little bit. So there's talk about some of the pieces that you've implemented, and then maybe some of the pieces that you have still yet to implement.
Yeah. So, I mean, across the board, right? So when we're doing a flip, this is actually so the last flip that we did, we completed in just shy of 3 weeks. And I can tell you that the reason that happened is because I had nothing to do with what was going on inside the house or inside the walls. We outsourced every piece of that renovation to professionals. Whereas before I would say, I can demo the cabinets, I can demo, clean out the house and these guys, it was team. And I was working just as hard, but it was behind the scenes on this is the day you're in, then this is the day you go in. This is how many days you're going to be there, right? And you just line them up. You give them the supplies they need and let them do their job. So that's one piece to how efficiently the last flip ran. But then in other areas like bookkeeping, for example, and our CPA and our banker, I could do all of those things. I could do my taxes. I could keep my bookkeeping records. It's not going to be as well done as they're doing. It's not going to save me it's probably saving me much more than it's actually costing me to have all the right players in place.
Yeah.
And then with our short-term rentals that we have property managers in place. So once we set those up, it's almost set it and forget it. And we don't have a lot to do with the day-to-day managing of that, because if I did, I'd rather pay them 16 or 18% to do it, because if I was managing it, that's taking up more of my time than finding the next house to flip.
Yeah. So it's not just I have to work less, right? But it's freeing you up to spend your time where it's going to benefit you down the road for the next deal.
Absolutely. I can't outsource quickly enough. So each task that I have, I'm like, can someone do this better? How quickly can I hire it out?
How much of you being able to do all of that is a result of your due diligence in finding good deals that have the margins in there to be able to do all of that?
I think that's probably critical until we're higher up and there's money coming in from all angles. And then, if something was a loss. So we are pretty picky, I guess, when it comes to what properties we're purchasing, to know that they're going to serve the purpose that we want them to. Even with the short-term rentals, we're buying it knowing that if we swept it out and sold it the next day, it would clear.
Let's backtrack a little bit. So are you doing just flips, or are you holding also?
Both. So we typically like to flip in the area right now. And I say typically or right now because this doesn't have to be the picture going forward. My interest is really in scaling and growth this year. So I feel like I'm talking to what I'm doing now, but I don't feel like it's what's going to always be. But what has been successful so far is we flip a property or two in the area. We take those profits. And I say in this area because it's much easier to see the renovations and make sure they're going quickly, because I don't like any type of flip to exceed 6 weeks. So to keep it that quick, you have to have you have to be on top of them.
A lot of people talk 90 days.
Yeah, no, I'm not very patient, which
I can tell
could be could probably be a hindrance, but hasn't so far. It's just great communication and making sure they have what they need. But we'll flip here and then we'll buy in a short-term rental desirable area.
Okay.
And we'll use the profits to buy it, renovate it, furnish it, put a property manager in place, and let it go.
So the flips are essentially helping you build the the hold portfolio.
Yeah. They're vehicles for, capital, extra capital that we don't use for ourselves. We'll just reinvest.
How long did it take you, or how many deals did it take you to feel comfortable in like, we're buying something good here? This makes sense. Like where you were confident in what your evaluation of properties.
My husband's really our back end team, right? He's our silent partner, I guess, more than anything. And he is really helpful at he'll either find them and send them to me. And I know if he's sending it to me, he's already vetted it to be a good deal. If I'm sending it to him, I'm letting him run it down, right? And he'll pull it apart and he'll say it is good or not.
So even there you have infrastructure built.
Yeah.
So what was your teaching background in?
Biology.
Okay. Has that in any way, maybe, I don't know if biology has any factor there, but did teaching translate into helping you do this in any way?
So my degree was biochem, and I think a large part of that was analyzing data. So while I'm not analyzing scientific data anymore, I love numbers, right? Like I can run a good spreadsheet and I can really dissect properties to make sure they're exactly what we're looking for.
And chicken wings?
And also chicken wings.
No, I figured there was something in there because you're quick. I can tell.
Oh,
like
thank you.
The wheels are moving fast. It's a good thing. What are some major lessons that you've learned doing this?
That you absolutely can do it, right? I'm speaking to everyone here, and it's the basis of my Instagram, right? Is that if I can do it, who grew up with a dad who had a poor dad mentality and no financial sense whatsoever, so there's no like generational wealth happening to this point, there's no reason that anyone else can't do it. Right? Like I'm not sitting watching Netflix. I'm usually, and there's very rarely a radio on in the car. I'm listening to podcasts or Bigger Pockets or consuming as much information as I need to be able to quickly analyze deals and make decisions. And there's no threshold of entry. Anyone can do it. And if you start, you really can accomplish big things pretty quick.
How has it benefited you personally?
Huge. I mean, far more than any financial gains, the connections. Can you tell? I'm a big extrovert. I love it, right? I'm happiest in a room full of people that I don't know. And this just built that bridge to give me access to experiences like this that I would have never had, or to speak belief into other people that are like, I want to do what you're doing. And maybe that's part of the teaching piece, right? Like I want people to know that they absolutely can.
You seem like you're a big cheerleader for people getting into this, and a lot of in business in general, there's a lot of people that are scared about sharing what they know. But I guess that that can kind of come back to like you don't seem like you have a scarcity mindset in reference to this. Seems like there's enough to go around, and it's something that everybody could potentially get into.
Thanks. I think we got here because people had the mindset that there's always a seat at the table. And I feel that way too. There's always a seat at my table. I will answer questions. I'll bounce ideas. I'll do everything I can to help you feel like you can. And then I'll cheer you on while you're doing it. And that makes me feel good, right? Mm-hmm. Like I love seeing other people win. There's not really a competitive bone in my body. I just really enjoy people winning and doing what they love. And that's been, you said, what has been life-changing for me, or like, how has it impacted me? It has been so fulfilling in so many ways to work with people in the community, to help people out of situations in some of our flips, right? Where they feel like they don't have an exit. And I can say, let me help you. And let's make this a win for everyone. And then employ small businesses in the community to renovate the house. And then sell it to a family that I know is this new, clean, safe house that we did by the book. There's no corners cut. And a lot of those families I still talk to, right? One was renovating a house. I'm like, here's the paint colors, here's the floor, this is where you get the countertop. Like, how can I help you be successful? And it bounces right back. It's been really cool.
You're going to get a lot of people into this, I feel like.
I hope so. I feel more alive than I ever have doing this.
Your attitude is phenomenal. I guess you would say everybody, can do it. Should everybody look into doing it? Is it for everyone?
It's a good question.
Because I think, and before you go on, I think I agree with you. I mean, I think the benefits are there, but like, should somebody, I don't know if there's somebody that it isn't for.
Real estate investing probably isn't for everyone. You have to have a certain level of risk tolerance, and you have to really have set up your finances in a way that you have the ability to do it. There has to be a little cushion there. But I do think that there is a place in real estate investing for anyone that does want to get involved. And one thing, because not everyone wants to do all the work that we do, right? But one thing I do like to tell people is like, you absolutely could have a vacation home. Because I feel like that seems very unattainable. But if you're spending $10,000 a year to go on vacation at the Jersey Shore with your like a big extended family, and you're paying for this house on the beach, like you could own the beach house for 10% down, and you could put a rental management company in place, and at the very least, you could be offsetting the cost of the beach house each year. You might not be making money, but it's going to appreciate.
So you were also talking about like investor meetups and things that you do. Is there a place for somebody who has cash stocked away to kind of go and meet these people and go to these programs and then be hands off and just get help fund deals?
Yes. So my email is Laura@Simon. No, but seriously, right? Private money investors, absolutely. You see it a lot of the time. Passive investing, where you like what someone's doing, they're competent, you can help fund deals for a great return on your money. I think right now you're seeing between 9 and 12% back on those funds. So absolutely. And where do you go? I would say Google your town, right? So let's say Westchester real estate meetups, and you can show up and start having the conversation.
Okay. So talk a little bit, let's dive a little bit deeper into that. So let's say I had, $150,000. I wanted to put it somewhere and get involved in this. Didn't want to do anything hands-on, right? So I found a place to put my money. What am I looking at as far as like, I no longer have access? It's not like the stock market where I could pull it out if I wanted to, is it?
It depends on what type of deal you're structured into. Let's say a flip type of situation where if you're investing with me, I would structure it that in, within 6 months, you'll have all of your money back plus 10% on that money.
Okay.
In a syndication type situation where you could partner with someone on an apartment building, you can structure it where you get all of your money back in a year. You could possibly pull it out with a penalty in advance.
So there's a lot of potential options involved with that.
There are a lot of ways that you can put money in and start getting really good returns in real estate. Absolutely.
I think a lot of people will be interested to hear that. Okay. Yesterday when we talked, you said you were talking about some tax benefits and that you've taken from investing. Can you talk a little bit about that and what people could potentially, how they could benefit from investing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still learning, right? Because I feel like learning the tax code is like
fun,
exponential, right? With what you can learn. But exactly what you said, the government likes to pay people that, or I guess give grace to people in taxes that are providing services to the community that they might not be able to. And one of those categories is real estate. And when you start investing in real estate, there are so many write-offs that become available to you that in our case, what we're doing, and a big driver for what we're doing, is my husband is a higher W-2 earner, and we can pretty much offset what he owes in taxes with our short-term rental properties each year. So my goal going forward is to buy at least one short-term rental a year because we can kind of wipe the slate clean on taxes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been great, right? Cost segregation studies, bonus depreciation stuff are buzzwords that you want to mention. And here, right, I don't do my own taxes. You need a real estate savvy CPA that will help guide you and strategize with you.
So if you have just a general CPA that you've been working with for years, you would say to somebody maybe to go look into somebody who specializes in the real estate end of it?
Absolutely. Just like real estate agents are more helpful to me when they're investor savvy agents, because there is a big difference. When you have a real estate savvy or specific CPA, he'll know the tax codes that are really beneficial to you and your business.
Okay. I want to get into some advice to, for people that might be interested in getting into this. So let's start off with, what are some books you've read or half read?
I know. Do you know what that is? Part of me is the half reading, because I just take it and go, right?
So you like to take action.
When it's an actionable step, I can't sit here and finish the book. I got to go, and I'm going to implement it, and then I'm going to see how it goes, and then I'll read the next part and go on from there.
That's awesome.
What books? I mean, Rich Dad, Poor Dad really was the catalyst for change. And then you hear any books on mindset and real estate. Really, if you need to open up your mindset, I would say, start looking in those directions.
Okay. Who are you listening to, podcast-wise, or YouTube channels that you're watching?
Anything Bigger Pockets right now has my interest. And what I do with that is I don't necessarily listen to one specific person. I'll Google Bigger Pockets and then what I want to know about, right?
Okay.
So for our one beach house, we use it as a midterm rental in the off season. So I was listening to Jesse Vasquez, and he talks about, how to connect with midterm renters, what they want in a rental, and so on. And then again, I'll listen to it and I'll implement it. So I'm not like an analysis paralysis type person. I might be the opposite. I'm going to listen and I'm going to act, and then I'll go from there.
Okay. For somebody thinking about diving in, should they start with a flip or a rental?
That's a good question. So we use our HELOCs to invest in our flips, and a HELOC, home equity line of credit, is basically like a credit card on your house, right? When you borrow the money from the HELOC, you start paying interest then. When you pay it off, it's still there, just like a credit card, but you're not paying interest on it, obviously. No fees or anything. I don't like to use that money to invest in buy and holds because I don't want to have to pay 2 mortgages. So I use the HELOC to do a flip. Once I get paid out from selling the flip, I'll pay all the HELOC, all the credit cards back, and then that sets some away for taxes. And then I'll use that money now to invest in those short-term rentals, or a buy and hold type situation. So that basically, in my mind, it's extra capital that was never I don't think about it as that it was ever mine. I use it in the business, and I'll just rinse and repeat. So I don't know that flipping is for everyone, but if you have, whatever it is, make sure that you have enough capital if you're going to go into like a buy and hold situation.
Do you think you need more post-acquisition savvy to do a flip than a rental?
It's a good question. I think a lot of people don't get it. I hear people all the time say like, man, I really want to do a flip. I've always wanted to do a flip. And you can. You absolutely can. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how quickly you're going to do it.
That goes back to what you're doing, where you're kind of building that efficiency.
Yeah, and a team. But you can do it. My brother just did his first flip. It was in Philly, and it took him a year. So he renovated, I don't know, for like 9 months, and then, which was painful to me. And I love him dearly.
You were probably
like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
But I think that's somewhat more normal. And if you're okay with those carrying costs and you're okay with that pace, there's nothing wrong with it. And really, the market probably was more favorable now than it was a year ago. And if you want to take it out that long, that's totally fine.
Is it though?
I don't know. But so anyone can flip, right? It's not hard. I think it's about contractors and all that kind of stuff.
What do you think about, so I have heard from a couple different things that I've listened to, that flipping is more, some people would not consider it investing. They would consider it speculating, and that there's more risk because, like, yeah, it might be great now, but by the time you get done what you're going to do to it, something could happen in the market and then you're stuck. What do you think in that perspective of it? I mean, I think you are investing your money for a return, but it's if you get a good deal on a hold, it might be a little safer. How do you look at that perspective?
Yeah. I like Well, first of all, that's probably why I move so quick on flips, because I'm like, let's do it before the market changes.
That's fair. Yep.
Let's go, guys. But when I'm going into it, I will examine multiple exit strategies. So it has to work in my mind as a long-term rental before I would even consider it to flip or anything else. Right now, I'm not interested in long-term rentals. I don't like that low of a cash flow, because I think my biggest interest right now is maximizing cash flow on investments just for where we're at.
Sure.
But I will go into it thinking, if I need to get out of this, how do I get my money back? And can I hold it as a long-term rental?
So the multiple exit strategies, I think that's very smart. If I'm somebody who hears this, gets to chapter 5 and decides to go take a HELOC out on my house, and okay, I bought a property. What are some of the first pieces that you would say somebody needs to really get a handle on, as far as like contractors or that type of thing?
First, before you buy the property, you probably want to have a really solid idea of the market in that area. So I would keep eyes on that market on Zillow, right? I'm going to watch houses and I'm going to favorite them, and I'm going to know how long it took them to sold, what they sold at, if they sold above asking, if they had to lower the price, so that when I do see a deal, I'm going to know that's a deal, lock it down really fast.
Okay.
Once you have it under contract, then is really the time that I start lining everyone up. So I'll call the agent back up and I'm like, hey, can I get me and my contractor in there? And usually the properties are empty and that's no problem. So I can walk it with 1 or 2 contractors, get their bids. And then I'll say, all right, you're starting March 26th, the day we close, you're going to start cleaning it out. And also in that time frame, I've already pre-ordered the appliances. I've measured for that. I've ordered the cabinets. I've ordered everything on Amazon. And those boxes are rolling in. And then we just store them. And then as they're ready, we line them up and they're in the house the next day. Like, all right, gentlemen, this is what we're doing today, and get going.
So you're already at the finish line, I guess, like mentally and just kind of lining things up like right away. Like you're kind of trying to lay out the whole picture. And then as soon as you have the property, it's like go time.
Yes. And that's the hardest part for me, is that 3 or 4 weeks leading up to closing, because I'm a machine of lining people up and ordering and making sure it's going to fit and maximizing the time that I can get into the property, right? Because usually I don't want to bother the agent. We're in there twice. We'll have all the measurements. We'll know exactly what needs to be done, and we'll just have a go sheet. So you know exactly what you're doing every day of that flip and how long it should take.
Okay. I'm sure there are some people wondering right now, because I know I am, do you sleep?
Why? Truly though, and this goes back to that question of, has it changed my life? I cannot wait to get out of bed in the morning. And that's been different, right? That has been a change. I love what I'm doing. I am excited for every part of it. And sleep is boring. No, I'm kidding. But I'll get a solid 6 or 7 hours, but I can't wait to open my eyes and get started.
How do you take care of yourself so that you can operate at this pace that you're doing?
A lot of my work is done from the gym, right? So that's a non-negotiable. Okay. And during cardio or whatever, I'm the person that's looking at my phone, reading, listening to a podcast, or lining up phone calls for later that day, making sure everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Besides that, I love what I'm doing. So it makes it easier. It's not really stress, right? And if someone calls me and they're like, we have a problem, I'm not like, oh my gosh, another problem. I'm like, all right, let's fix it. We got this. Let's figure it out. It's never, this is terrible. It's always like, all right, this is figure outable. Let's do it.
I love that. What does the next 5 years for Sides Investing look like?
Oh man, that's an exciting question. And I don't know that I have a concrete answer. I think it looks like continuing to make connections and follow what I feel is right and good. I will say that I know it's big because I have that feeling of this is going to get even better. Yeah. And I don't know, just like I've gotten here, I don't have every move planned out.
Sure.
But I know that I'm not taking my foot off the gas pedal. And I know that I want to continue to see how I can serve people in our community and how I can involve people in our community. And I feel that everything I'm doing is good and right and well-intentioned, and the plan will just kind of unfold.
Okay. Do you see yourself, obviously you're going to keep doing what you're doing and growing your business, but do you see any kind of mentorship or, helping other people do this in the future as part of it?
I'm getting that question more and more now. And one thing that is hard for me to do is slow down a little bit to really see through an answer to that.
Do you think you could get your business to a place where you can hands off it and kind of just maybe be the CEO and not the operator?
That would be a really great part of this 5-year plan for sure, right? And
do you would you like that, or do you like doing this so much that it's going to be painful for you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a good question. 2 years ago, it would have been painful for me. Now I see a lot of the growth happens, and I think growth is so good, not just for me, but for everyone that's involved in our Sides Investing organization, that it will only benefit everyone for me to continue to step back.
So you said and just one other thing. So you say your husband is like the silent partner,
Yes.
right? Yeah. What's it like doing this with your spouse?
He's my high school sweetheart and the absolute love of my life. And maybe this sounds really cheesy, I can't spend enough time with him. And he's a quieter guy, right? So talk about truly opposites attracting. When he collaborates with me on something, I know it's going to be a success. When he gets excited about something and is all for it, he is really wise with that kind of stuff. So working with him, I'd love to even do it more in the future.
Okay, so you guys complement each other.
Oh, huge. Yes.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's pretty much all that I have. If you wouldn't mind sending us off with a positive message to all the future investors out there.
Future investors, just start one foot in the front of the other. There are people out there that want to help you be successful once you show initiative and drive, and everything else will come as you take those steps. Don't get sucked into overanalyzing situations. Just go and realize that there's a whole nother world out there, and you're going to feel so good once you start working towards it.
Love that. Laura, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Okay. That's it.